Welcome to the video. So today's topic is designed for people who maybe you're an active duty military or Department of Defense civilian or Department of Defense contractor, and you have to deploy to a combat zone, and the weapon they give you is the M9 pistol or the M17 pistol, and you're sent to the range to qualify. So that's the target audience. Not really necessarily high-speed special forces types. Probably won't get much out of this video. It's just basically maybe you're not a gun person, maybe you're a scientist for the Department of Defense and you have to qualify with the M9 pistol, and this video will give you the basics that you need before you go to the range so you'll do well. This video ends up going so long that we're going to split it into two parts. The first part's going to cover the basic safety and operation of the M9 pistol and the M17 pistol, as well as range safety. If you want to skip that part, go to the second part and we'll go over the firing positions and the actual course of fire for the alternate C qualification. Okay, the most important thing, of course, is always safety. So there are 4 firearm safety rules that we go by. One thing is that we treat all weapons like they're loaded. Right now I'm using this plastic training gun for safety, but we'll go over how to make sure that weapons are not loaded. And if they are loaded, you treat them like they are loaded. The second rule is that you want to keep your finger off the trigger unless you're ready to engage a target. So if I have my weapon and I'm just holding it, I'm going to keep my finger out of this trigger guard. I'm not going to touch the trigger. The next thing is be sure of your target and what's beyond. So for example, we have a target here. This is the Department of Defense issue M9 silhouette target, and behind it you will find a hill, so that once the bullet passes through the target, it will hit the hill. We don't have to worry about it going a mile down the road and killing a neighbor. Final rule of firearm safety is do not point the weapon at anything you're not willing to destroy. So for example, if I was going to pass this by my camera person, I would bring it down like this. I don't want this. I'm just imagining there's like a laser coming out of the muzzle of this gun, and I don't want to touch anybody with the laser. That's my mindset when I'm handling a firearm. So if you follow those rules, nobody can get hurt. The weapon's not going to fire unless you pull the trigger. If you do pull the trigger and fire it, it's not going to hurt anybody unless you're pointing it at them. And you need to make sure of your target and make sure that the bullet stays within your target area and not a mile down the road hitting a neighbor's house. This is the M9 pistol. It served the United States military very well for many years, and it's still in service. Going back to 1985, it was adopted to replace the M1911 45 caliber pistol that served the U.S. in World War I and World War II. So for most of my career, this was the weapon that I carried. Now, first of all, anytime we handle a weapon, we're going to clear it before we do anything else. And in order to do that, you're going to eject the magazine. It's very important to do that, or else if the magazine's loaded, you're only reloading the weapon for the next step. Next thing you want to do is pull the slide back and lock it in place, and we'll go over those controls in a bit. And then you just want to observe the chamber to make sure that there's no round in the chamber. So if this weapon was loaded, there'd be a bullet right there. There'd be a magazine in there that had a bullet in it, a cartridge in it. And so as you can see plainly, there's no cartridge anywhere in this weapon. Now we're going to start from left to right, and we're going to go over the controls of the Beretta 92 FS, as it's civilian called, and the M9 pistol. By the way, this was made in Accokeek, Maryland. This you're not going to use in this video or to qualify until it gets time afterwards to clean it, but this is just a takedown lever, and it's used to take the weapon apart when you're disassembling it for cleaning or maintenance. This is the slide stop, so this is going to hold the slide in the rear position. So if I have a magazine in it, it'll automatically engage. And if I don't have a magazine in it, I have to engage it with my thumb. So, and that's what holds the slide open. This is the safety. So right now in this position, I can pull the trigger. It's very floppy, nothing really happens. when I place it on fire. Now the M9 is a strange pistol in that it's double action for the first round. So what's going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of resistance. I'm going to pull the trigger back, and at the same time the hammer comes back, and that's the first round. At that point, the weapon cycles from the recoil, and the hammer's automatically cocked. And then there's a much lighter trigger pull for subsequent rounds. Once I put the weapon on safe, it can be loaded, unloaded. I can't make it fire. This is the magazine release. So I put the magazine in, I touch this, the magazine drops out. This is the M17 pistol. Now we're filming this in May 2020, so we're about 3 months into the coronavirus pandemic. So this pistol's only been in the military for about 2 years at this point, and it was first adopted by the U.S. Army and fielded in the 101st Airborne Division. It was the first major unit to get it. Most units in the military still have the M9 pistol as we're filming this, but they're gradually going to get the M17 pistol. I'm just going to briefly go over the controls. Once again, this lever is only used to disassemble the weapon. We're not going to really use it for this video. It's used for cleaning and disassembly and maintenance. This is the slide stop. Once again, we're going to clear the weapon, so we'll first remove the magazine using the magazine release button. It's almost identical to the one on the M9. And then we're going to pull the slide back and engage the slide stop. We can look in there where a cartridge would be called a 3-point check. So there's a empty hole where a cartridge might be in the barrel. There's no magazine in, and we also can look at the bolt face and make sure that there's not a cartridge stuck to the bolt face. Now that we're satisfied it's safe, we will talk about the safety. This is unique to the military version of this weapon. The civilian version does not have this, but the Army wanted in their specifications to have a safety. So this is the unsafe position, and when it's in the up position, it's safe. So there's nothing I can do to fire the weapon or make it go off when the safety is engaged. This trigger, I could break it off before I could pull it. It's very safe. The unique thing about the M17 compared to past pistols is that it comes issued with night sights that glow in the dark, and they're powered by tritium, which is a radioactive isotope of hydrogen. Tritium consists of 1 proton, which makes it hydrogen, and then it has 2 neutrons, giving it an atomic weight of 3, hence the tri in tritium. When tritium decays, it gives off an electron, and one of the neutrons turns into a proton, converting the entire atom into helium-3. So it can only do that one time. So over a period of time, all this tritium hydrogen isotope is turning into helium isotope, and it gives off an electron. That electron strikes a glow-in-the-dark phosphor, making it glow. Every 12.3 years, half of that tritium turns into helium. So in 12 years, these sights will be half as bright as they are now. In another 12 years, the sights will be half as bright as they were in 12 years. So even though these sights are great, they don't require any batteries. They do have that half-life to contend with and have to be replaced every 12, 15 years or so. The other nice thing about the M17 is it comes with this rail, which most modern firearms have, but not at the time that the Beretta was adopted in 1985. So this rail allows you to mount a light. So this weapon is very night friendly. Is probably the biggest improvement that I see, in that it can accept a light and the sights are visible at night. I'll go ahead and remove this and we won't use it for the qualification. We want to talk about correct sight alignment. So when we're looking down the pistol, and I'll use the Beretta as an example. As you can see in the rear, there's a notch, and then in the front, there's just one front sight post. So in order to engage a target, we want to line those up so that the top of the front sight post is even with the sight posts in the rear. It's very important. If you have the front sight post lower, then the pistol is going to go off target low, and if it's higher, it's going to go off target high. And then once you get the sights all lined up, you want to place them on the target. So this is the silhouette target. If you're used to a rifle, a pistol magazine can be a little bit tricky because you sort of have to put the back of the bullet in the front of the magazine and slide it back instead of just popping it straight in from the top like a rifle magazine. It can be a little tricky. So my assistant instructor is loading the M17 magazine right now. And go ahead and load the M9 magazine if you would, assistant instructor. So see how you have to sort of start out with the cartridge in front, and note carefully the direction of the cartridge. It's not uncommon for new pistol firers to accidentally put the bullet in backwards, which you can do, but it'd be very embarrassing for you to show up at the M9 qualification range like that. Now, it's important when you're on the range to follow the instructions of the person that's in charge of the range, the officer in charge or the non-commissioned officer in charge. So my assistant instructor just showed you how to insert the magazine into the pistol. Once again, if you take it out, notice that the bullet goes in front. And if you could, when the range instructor instructs you, go ahead and they might say lock and load one round. So if you pull a slide to the rear and release it. So that's one way of doing it. That's called the slingshot method. Another method is perhaps preferred on the range, and that is to start out with the slide locked to the rear. Then you insert the magazine, and then you release the slide. Now there's two ways to release the slide. I'm going to use the slide stop. But another way, and a way that I was taught when I trained with the Baltimore Police on one occasion, is just slingshot from the lock to close position. The target you'll be using when you go to qualify with the M9 or M17 pistol is the official 25-meter silhouette. And no, I did not steal this from work. I got it from actiontargets.com. It's life size, and it features these numbers 5, 4, 3. I guess they could be used for points, but all it counts for the alternate C qualification we're going over today is hit or miss. So even if you nick the target, it's considered to be a hit, and there's no points assessed. This is the Department of the Army Form 5704R, dated 2008, and this is the form that you'll be using to record your score. So I will provide a link in the description where you can download this form as a PDF. Okay, so this is what I was talking about when I talked about the double action versus the single action trigger. Right now the weapon's on safe, so it takes almost no resistance to pull the weapon back. I'm going to go ahead and load it. Take it off safe, and I'm going to slowly drag the trigger back. There's a lot of resistance and the hammer is going back, and then now the hammer stays back. The trigger is farther back than it was, and then subsequent rounds are going to be easier and crisper. This creates a training problem though, because you have two different trigger pulls you have to master, and that may be one reason why the Army went to a striker-fired pistol like the M17. Now with the M17, once again I have the safety engaged, but I pull on the trigger and I can't pull it back. No matter how much force I use, I would break the trigger before I could pull it back. I'm going to go ahead and load it. There is no hammer. When I pull the trigger, it's consistent every time. Now we're going to talk about ways of gripping the pistol. Now, I've been shooting this pistol for about 30 years, so I was taught a lot of different ways. We used to do what was called the cup and saucer. That's no longer in style. What you want to do is grip the pistol with the web of your hand as high up on the pistol as possible, You don't want it to be too high, but it's difficult to go too high because this will stop your hand from going too high. But remember, the slide's going to come back, so it can actually cut your hand. So if I was to hold it in some strange way that would place the web of my hand up there, I could get a cut, and that's no fun. All right, so I'm going to place 2 hands on the pistol. My thumbs are going to be on the same side. I've got sort of some opposing force, so I'm sort of pulling back with my left hand as I push forward with my right hand, and this allows me to hold the pistol in a very steady manner, keep the sights aligned, and then place it on target. At that point, I'm going to take it off safe. I'm going to pull the trigger, and the trick is just to hold the sights still, and then when it goes off, not move them until after it goes off. And once it goes off, there's recoil, and so it's going to move. There's really nothing you can do to stop that. People talk about ways of controlling recoil, but basically the sights are going to come off target, and you have to just bring them back on target as quickly as possible to fire the next round. When you fire on the M9 qualification course, you're going to only be given a certain amount of time to shoot each course of fire, and at the end the instructor will make you stop shooting. So you have to be able to fire quickly, but you're not under a lot of time pressure. It's more important to take your time, hit the target. One of my instructors used to say, don't hurry to miss. If you hurry up and miss the target, you might as well not have shot at all. So I'd rather run out of time than miss the target.